Hello, everybody. This is Felicia Day, and this is my interview segment of Felicitations. Very excited to be here for my second reboot of whatever this is. I don't know, y'all. You know what it is. It's all sloppy. It's Felicia Day brand. But I do have an amazing opportunity to interview a creator who I'm sure you have enjoyed the work of. He's so prolific on in so many different formats, but especially comic books. It is Jeff Lemire. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Felicia. How are you?
I am delighted to be here with you. You are a legend, and I'm just psyched to have a conversation with you about your work, about who you are, about your background, which is so nice. Did you do all that yourself? Hang all those things up?
Um, no, this is my collection of other people's art that inspires me. Stuff that I've either bought or traded with other artists, and yeah,
It's really beautiful. I mean, it's nice to have an inspiration wall when you're working.
yeah, for sure.
Do I see work that behind you? I see like an iPad or something. Is that your
So that's a
own
big
work?
light. That's a light table. Yeah, that's a page I was working on today. So
Okay, I can't wait to get into your process because how are you so prolific? That is my first question because it seems like you juggle 15 projects at once, and I'm not really sure how you humanly do that. Talk to me about
yeah,
it.
I don't know either sometimes, but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a workaholic, so that's the first kind of part of it all. I work a lot because I love what I do, so it's kind of what I would be doing anyway. But yeah, I mean, I'm super structured. Most of my week is really spent drawing still because that's kind of my first love. So Monday to Fridays in my studio here, I'm kind of drawing for a good chunk of the day, and then I try to work on sort of one writing project a week otherwise. And if I do that, I can kind of stay ahead. And I'm also really far ahead of all my artists, which helps because I can just sort of pick up projects and then put them aside for a couple months at a time until I'm kind of inspired to work on them again, which is much better than working up to deadlines all the time where it's crazy and it's hard to get inspiration and you're stressed out and all that stuff. So staying really far ahead of my artists is really the key so that I can kind of pick and choose what I work on and also choose not to work on things for a while if I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, that is an amazing privilege that people in from the script, like the more Hollywood side, don't really know. You can't really put something as it's always like the train is go. You got to go. You have to put something on the screen, and what a privilege to be able to kind of give yourself that artistic room. Now, can we talk a little bit about your writing versus your drawing because that is really fascinating to me. I think, people think of I thought of you as more of a writer, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. And then when I started digging into it with some of your more iconic works, like your Essex County trilogy and your Royal City, there's some that you draw yourself, but others you collaborate. Now, how did that start out? Um,
Well, yeah, really, I started out, I guess it would have been like in the mid 90s. I started sort of drawing my own comics and just self-publishing stuff. And I really just wanted to be a cartoonist. That was always my goal, is just to sort of write and draw my own stories and hopefully get them published. And so I kind of worked on that for a long time. And that's really where I got my start in publishing as well, because my first few books were things that I drew and with smaller publishers. And it really wasn't until I kind of made a name doing that stuff that I was asked to write comics for other artists. That was sort of, I mean, I always loved the more mainstream comics and superhero stuff. So when I got asked to write that stuff, it was really cool, but it was never really something I like, it wasn't a goal of mine, it was just
got
sort of,
you.
I kind of got in the back door and did it sort of the wrong way around. So,
I mean, the
um,
right way. I think you've done everything the right way, Jeff.
okay, maybe, but yeah, so that was sort of like for a while, just sort of like a side thing that I was doing where I was drawing my own stuff. I was drawing Sweet Tooth, a book that I worked on for like 5 years at DC Comics, um, and writing stuff for DC was kind of like a side thing for a
Wow.
while, and then it just sort of kept growing where I was like, it got to the point where the real thing was that you can only ever really do one project at a time when you're drawing something because it takes so long to draw a comic as opposed to just writing the scripts.
Yeah.
And I kind of started to realize, well, if I could balance something I'm drawing with things I'm writing, I could do more than one book at a time, which was exciting.
Very
And also
exciting.
I could do the kinds of books that I might not excel at as an artist, but that I would kind of love to write and work with great artists and do things a little outside my wheelhouse as an artist, which is sort of very specific. So I just started doing more and more of that. And I guess since that stuff was a little more, I guess, in the mainstream of the comics world, that's where I kind of built a bigger readership and kind of became known on a wider level. So I think a lot of people do think of me as a writer still, but the truth is I'm always drawing something too. It's that stuff
Yeah.
just needs to be a little quieter and a little more indie.
Is that, I mean, that's the stuff I like to read anyway, to be honest with you. You really have to twist my arm to get me to read Marvel or DC, which is a terrible thing to admit. I'm sorry,
That's not
fans. But
true.
I'm tired. I just need to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
there are some amazing there are some amazing Marvel and DC runs. Like I've read some, but they're never the ones I want to go to. I want to see people's artistic journeys in this format. That's what really resonates with me. And yeah, that's where your roots come from, which is really surprising to a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
how was that process first working? Because clearly you probably write with the idea of what the picture will look like, right? So,
Yeah.
how
I
do you
suppose
not be a control
visually.
freak? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it really comes down to the fact that I'm still drawing every day. If I wasn't drawing every day and someone else was doing the drawing, I would be jealous and be a control freak. But since I kind of get to do that and exercise those muscles every day and kind of get that out of my system, it's really easy to let go on the projects that I write. And also working with, at this point, I'm kind of working with artists who I've done multiple projects with and have a great sort of respect and trust for how they do things. So it's very easy to, I do my part and just let it go and let them do their thing and know that it's going to be great. So
Yeah. So,
yeah.
when you write the scripts for other illustrators, do you kind of give them directions as far as like, no, you just write the script?
Yeah, when I
Oh,
first
okay.
started off, I did because I was so used to drawing everything that I didn't really know how else to think my way through a story.
Hmm.
But the more I did it, the more I just sort of let the artist. Well, it kind of comes from knowing myself. Like the more specific the art direction I would get would be, it just would feel restrictive to me as an artist. Whereas
Mm.
if things were left open and I was allowed to bring my own storytelling into it and bring more of myself into it, the work would be better. So it's kind of knowing the more freedom you can give an artist, the better the work is going to end up being, And again, that comes from trust and building a relationship with specific artists over multiple books where you can kind of let go. But yeah, my scripts tend to be pretty sparse. Like I focus on the story and on the emotion and on the characters and I'll just really let them have free reign in terms of the visual storytelling.
Yeah, I just finished a draft of my first graphic novel. I'm like, maybe I overpaneled it. But when I guess the only comics that I wrote the Guild comics before,
Yeah.
and the way I did those, they wanted me to panel them out, and that was a really, because not a visual storyteller for sure, it was a real challenge to turn way too many words into too few pictures, and
Yeah.
that's a hard transition to make. What would you recommend somebody who is looking to maybe go from longer form writing to more graphic novel comic writing? What is the one tip that you can give them?
Yeah, you know what? Even if you can't technically draw well, I think it's important to at least try to do like stick figure like thumbnails of the panels because that's the only way you can really get your brain around. Comics is funny. It's not a lot. It's not like shooting a film, like where you shoot all this footage, and it's more like editing a film where you're picking in your brain the specific moments that you're showing that tell the story. So you kind of have to visually edit yourself. And I think having to do thumbnails yourself, even if they're really crude, allows you to see the beats and the moments,
Hmm.
visualize them the way an artist needs to, and it can really help you cut out all the stuff that probably you don't need to see between
Yeah.
panels.
I mean, that's interesting because I read on your Wikipedia, again, a surprise, that you did go to film school. And
Yeah,
so was that
yeah,
college? Was that always your intention? What were your intentions in going to film school?
yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up on a farm in a really small town in Canada, so there was nobody in my community or family that was into the arts at all,
Yeah.
and back then this would have been the early 90s, mid 90s. There were no programs or secondary school programs for graphic novels or comics. There are
Hmm.
now, which is amazing, but back then there was just no path to doing comics.
Yeah.
But I knew that in Toronto, which was the closest big city, there was a pretty booming film industry. So it was visual storytelling. It was kind of similar. And I mean, I love movies as well. And so I thought, well, maybe that's something that could lead to a job. I was 18. I didn't, it
You
was
never
the,
know anything at 18, or
and
we'd never
also
try anything, would we?
I really just wanted to move to a city and get out of the small town where I grew up. That's so yeah, I went to film school and that was great and really fun. But as I got further into the program, I really got really into comics again and sort of started skipping classes and staying home and drawing comics. So
Amazing. Were you
thankfully that
thinking
worked
about
out.
being a director or a production designer or a
Um,
cinematographer? What was
yeah,
most
when I got
attractive?
into it, when I was in the program, I got really into cinematography. Like that was kind of where I just loved we're playing with cameras and stuff. And this was before digital cameras too. So I really loved playing with film and that was really fun. Um, and I think studying cinematography really helped with comics, sort of composition and everything. Um, but yeah, the more I got into it, the more I just wanted to fully tell my stories myself. And comics are such a great medium where you can just sit down by yourself and fully that you can put a story on a page that's goes directly to the reader with just right from your pen. And with film and TV there's just so many people involved and it's such a huge collaboration, which I'm sure can be great, but it wasn't my personality to
Yeah.
do that, really.
Yeah, it's hard, especially when it's not sometimes the work that really is the goal. It's more of the admin above it that kind of
Yeah.
that dictates. I'm sure you've been in development a lot with a lot of your properties that have never gotten made, but you have gotten a couple of properties made. Obviously, Sweet Tooth on Netflix got turned into from comic into screen. How was that process for you? Were you able to be hands on, or were you more of a hands off producer in that
That one
respect?
was more hands off. I they shot that in New Zealand and they shot a lot of it during the pandemic. So I
Oh,
was
wow.
kind of unable to be there. I was there for the pilot shoot, which they shot before the pandemic, and that was amazing. But yeah, I was pretty hands off on Sweet Tooth. But on some of my other, I'm show running an adaptation right now that we're shooting in August. So that's been a real it's just been kind of crazy trying to juggle all the comic stuff with that now, all the
I
meetings.
can't imagine how you would. Show running is a nightmare. It's
Yeah,
all
it's
encompassing.
insane as I'm learning day by day. So yeah, luckily I got really far ahead in comic stuff, so I've kind of just shut it down for for the most part.
Yeah.
I try to get a little drawing done here and there just to stay sane between meetings and stuff, but yeah, so that's cool. It's kind of come full circle now doing some TV and film stuff again.
Yeah, and how does that feel being on a set, having other people? I mean, are you able to divorce yourself from the material because you're show running your own material, I assume.
Yeah, yeah.
And are you able to divorce yourself enough to work with like a writing room to be able to kind of
For
redo it
sure.
before
Yeah.
screen?
Yeah. I think Sweet Tooth was good because I was not involved with the writing so I didn't have a choice. I had to let go, and that worked out well. But this one, it's been interesting translating from one medium to another. I'm learning the big difference between comics and TV, especially is time. You know, one act of a TV episode could be a whole issue of a comic, so you
Yeah.
just need so much more story. So we've had to take what I had in the comic and then build out, build sideways, build story for each character to fill the whole miniseries. And my brain was kind of stuck in what I'd already done. So it was good to bring in other people that could come at it from different perspectives and help
Yeah.
me see new ways into those characters. So it's been really cool, actually. I think I've learned a lot as a writer from collaborating in that way.
Is it make you excited to do more show running, or do you want to kind of be like, I need to set this aside? I always think that with
I
Neil
don't know.
Gaiman, he seems to be show running a lot, or at least involved in a lot of the things that he's adapting from his own project, but also Good Omens. I'm like, well, he had such a good gig just writing by himself. Like, I wonder, is it something that you want to do more of, or you
I think you'd
basically
have to
just want to
ask me
sell?
when it's all said and done because we're kind of in the middle of pre-production and right now it's just all meetings, 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 and I just want to draw.
Yeah,
But it
of
might be
course.
fun when we're on set, and that might be a whole different thing.
Yeah,
But honestly, it has made me appreciate how awesome I had it, where I could just come here and draw every day and not have to talk to anybody.
yeah,
So I kind of do miss it already. So I think I
yeah.
already know the answer, but I want to experience it at least once and try it.
Yeah, no, I get you. Pandemic taught me that I really don't like other people. I mean, I
Yeah.
do like other people, but I really, I am. I grew up homeschooled, so I feel like we both had this sort of isolation in our childhood, and we were probably always longing for other people in our lives and to work with them and spend more time with them. But at the same time, it's like almost baked into me that I'm a lot more comfortable just kind of doing my own thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, same here. I like little bursts of being social, but for the most part, I'm very happy being alone and doing my thing.
Yeah, there's
You
no
can have
reason.
to
Yeah,
do
this
content.
COVID thing, you know, I mean, we don't need COVID anymore, but the COVID lifestyle really works for me. This whole
Yeah,
let's go to lunch thing, I'm not really, yeah, this is not
yeah,
working for
I hear
me.
you. I hear you.
I
Yeah.
wanted to talk briefly. I want to talk about your new book that's coming out, but I want to talk briefly about a couple of your side projects, which actually fascinate me the most because, I mean, you have worked on your own stuff. You're a self starter. Then you've worked for the big Marvel, DC, and all that stuff. But it seems like you are always looking for opportunities to do new things with your art. So you have a Substack, Tales from the Farm, that you release new content as well as like writing advice. But you also just did a Kickstarter for Cosmic Detect. Like, it seems like you're so innovative and experimental with the way that you make things. What drives that?
I wish there was a grand plan to it, but honestly, sometimes you just get these little opportunities. And I spent a lot of time uh, about a decade ago where I worked exclusively for one company. I would work for Marvel or DC exclusively for 5-year contracts or whatever. And I think when I got out of doing that, I just kind of like the freedom of trying new things and working with different publishers and different platforms and kind of diversifying, in that way. Especially now, I feel like we're kind of at a transition point with media and comics and bookstores and all that stuff. And I think it's nice to have, you know, different sort of venues for your work other than just the one traditional kind of thing. Just to I know it makes me feel more comfortable career wise to try things like that.
Oh, for sure.
Um, and sometimes like the Kickstarter thing was just kind of came about. My collaborator on that, Matt, was just really into doing a Kickstarter and he said he'd do all the work. So I said, okay,
Okay.
why not?
You just want to do the drawing or the
Yeah,
writing, and then you're okay.
exactly. And the
Uh,
Substack thing's been fun because it's sort of like a direct link with the readers that you don't really get when you have a publisher or whatever, right? So
yeah.
that's been really cool to build that.
Is that I started to do a Substack last year and I loved it, but the regularity of it kind of creeping up on me all the
Yeah.
time caused me to kind of jump. I think I just have a pattern of over obligating myself and then just
Yeah.
bailing. I mean, I have a
I'm familiar
problem.
with that pattern.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's just a toxic pattern of, "Oh, I'm free this week. Let's add 7 things on," versus like, "Why not try a free week?" I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to identify that in my pattern of behavior. That's why this week I haven't started 5 new things because I'm between projects. But how do you feel pressure like does it sort of feel like you're over obligated or you feel pressured that you've committed to this? I don't know if you do it weekly or biweekly or what. Does it give you structure in a good way or does it feel like, "Oh my gosh, I still have to do this thing?"
Oh my gosh, I still have to do this thing. So yeah, we're supposed to do it twice a week, and
Oh, wow.
it's been intense. I knew it was coming well before we launched it, so basically spent all of last summer just stockpiling material for it, so that once it got going, I wouldn't have to stress as much. But I'm starting to get caught up to what I had stockpiled, and now I'm stressing a little,
Yeah.
especially with the TV show happening and everything. But I had like a 1-year contract with Substack, and I think we're getting close to being done. And then I'll have to make a real decision on if I can keep it going or maybe be a little more casual about it. I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah.
it has been cool. But yeah, it's a bit much.
It is hard to obligate yourself, even this podcast. As my podcast listeners know, I was in beta for 3 years and then I stopped and then I started again. So, I mean, really, it is like the regular content really does maintain that sort of audience relationship. People want
Yeah,
regular content, but, and when you're working on larger, less immediate, but more rewarding, long gestating projects, it's hard to have that sort of undercurrent of like, well, I still got to do this thing this week. I got to do this
yeah,
thing this week. It's yeah, okay, good. I have a sympathetic ear here. This is my life.
yeah,
Um, so let's talk a little bit about your new project, The Passageway. I'll read the description that was on the website, and I'm sure you can articulate a little bit better. When a geologist is sent to a remote lighthouse to investigate strange phenomena, he finds a seemingly endless pit in the rocks. What lurks within, and how will he escape its pull? That was terribly written. What lurks within, and how will he escape its pull? So this is really so you're pushing a lot toward horror. I guess you are a horror fan, but it feels like your latest stuff is a lot more horror based.
Yeah, I'm not really a horror fan, to be honest with you, which is weird.
What?
I just have, I know, it's too scary. I don't like,
I
I don't
I
watch a
don't
lot of
either.
horror. Yeah, it freaks me out. But for some reason, I love writing it. Like it must be some kind of cathartic thing where I get it out of my system or something writing it, because I
Hmm.
do enjoy it a lot. And so yeah, this book is an original graphic novel. It's sort of like a self-contained story, but it's going to be part of a bigger universe that I'm building with my artist collaborator Andrea Sorrentino. Um, so the idea is to do 2 or 3 of these books every year, and they kind of all share a common mythology or a common world, and they'll slowly build towards one huge sort of sprawling story. So this is sort of the opening chapter in that more ambitious project, I guess.
So that is a huge thing to bite off. How much is it? How much of the plan do you know in advance?
We're like 2 years ahead of what's coming out now, which is pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's been cool. Um, so yeah, we have the first book coming out, and I think we're kind of planning the 6th book. So yeah,
What?
yeah, it's
How
pretty
do you
cool.
do it?
We started a long time ago, like 2 years ago. So
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
it's something we came up with overnight. You know, we've been slowly building this thing together for a couple of years. Um, yeah, we knew we needed some lead time on this one.
I mean, that's a huge plot. I mean, just to be able to build that kind of world, the world building. How, so you're definitely a planner. Do you have
Yeah,
everything out? You do not fly by the seat of your pants.
no.
You just meticulously plan, and then
I
you.
I spend more time making schedules than I do working sometimes. I feel like
Yeah,
that.
it can. It seems like it, but it seems like it always pays off because you have the discipline to be like, okay, I'm. Because right now I have a novel I really want to write. I need listen. This is all about me, Jeff.
That's fine.
I have a novel that I want to write, and yet I know that it's going to take months and months and months, if not a year or two. It's going to take a long time. And it's really hard to be like, I'm going to commit to this path. I'm going to commit to doing this every day, even though it's going to take forever to get through. How do, how do you make yourself do it?
I don't know. I don't, because I love doing it. So it's like I feel like these are the things I would be doing even if it wasn't my job. You know, if these were the kind of things, this is what I would do as my hobby if so I don't need to make myself do it. It's I love doing it. I can't wait to wake up every day and get back to work most days, and I'm so lucky to have that. I know
Yeah, yeah.
don't have that.
You're not distracted by video games or.
Oh no, I don't play video games. I've never played video games. I think
Okay,
if I
see.
did, it would be a Pandora's box, and it would be awful. So I have never allowed myself to
That's the
do it.
problem. I could count the hours a week that I could get back, y'all. It's okay. I do wanna write this book. I do want to. I mean, it really does give me joy to do, but it is really more about getting over the hump of starting something for
Oh,
me.
that starting is always the hardest. I overthink everything, and I build everything up to be a huge endeavor. And then once I actually sit down and get it started, it's easy and fun. But it's getting to there that's sometimes, yeah,
Yeah. It's like climbing a sand dune or something.
yeah,
Once you just feel like, "I'm going to get up there," but you're factoring in all the things that are gonna go wrong
yeah.
before you start. You're totally right. All right. I'm gonna get my ass in gear. Thank you. Well, this sounds like an amazing book. It's out June 15th.
Yeah.
We just have a couple questions from Twitter when I put a
Oh,
little
cool.
call out. Some people really wanted to talk to you. How much input do you have when you're, well, we kind of talked about this a little bit. How much input do you have when your work is adapted for movie or TV? Cleve smell. So, I mean, it's probably varying now that you're
Yeah.
getting more and more things actually made. Do you ask for more and more control, or are you just kind of okay with people taking it away?
No, so it's kind of the thing where, I mean, Sweet Tooth is sort of the example where that was kind of one of the first major books that I did. So at that time, I was super happy just to be published, and I signed whatever contract DC Comics put in front of me, and
So you didn't own that. You didn't, they
I
own it.
own it, but I do not control it, if that makes sense. So
Uh,
Warner Brothers controls it. So I had really no say in that show at all, to be honest. But I was really lucky that some really amazing people did the adaptation and were really respectful of the material, and tried to include me as much as they could. But since then, as I've been more successful with publishing and things, yeah, I've been able to ask for more control on things, and so yeah, and I see the importance in that, even in being, if I can't adapt it myself, having a voice and choosing who does adapt it, and how that adaptation goes is important to me.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's super important to it should be super important to every artist because I mean, there, quite frankly, anything that you write would never get made a traditional way. If you went and
Yeah,
pitched any of your ideas, and this has been the grand realization of my COVID, like, oh, any of the ideas that I haven't gotten made over the years of frustration, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna make those different ways. They're still good ideas, but Hollywood just doesn't want to have those ideas go through the pipeline, and that's totally fine. But at the same time, when you take something that they never would have made anyway and put it through their pipeline, it's going to get made into something that you probably don't want it to be made into because that's just the nature of
yeah,
their taste, right? And so you're having that control must be a relief.
yeah. I'd rather have something not get made than get made and me not feel at least connected to it or proud of it in some way.
Yeah.
I got lucky with Sweet Tooth. The people that adapted it were really cool and did a good job.
Yeah, they did.
Um, but yeah, I don't like that feeling of something I've created being totally in other people's hands.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Alyssa Yoon asks cheese or pepperoni. What are you asking? I don't even, this is not even a pizza. It didn't even say pizza. I'm going to assume this is a pizza. Like, what's on your pizza? You're a
So,
Canadian. Do you guys have poutine pizzas?
we probably do, but I don't. What's on my pizza? I'm pretty simple. It's like yeah, cheese, bacon. Yeah, that's pretty Canadian, bacon, on your
That is
pizza.
bacon. Yeah, bacon. We Canadian bacon. Okay, cheese and no pineapple. Pineapple, no pineapple.
No, God, no.
All right. Well, I still like you.
All right.
Um, Garuda underscore 17 asks, are there plans to adapt the Black Hammer universe into movies or TV?
There are big plans, yeah, and I'm working on those right now. We can't announce who I'm doing that with, but it's definitely happening. Yeah.
Are you writing or,
I
I mean, you probably
am,
can't say anything.
I am writing, yeah. It's more than one project, but I'm writing one of them at
Oh,
least.
exciting. Yeah, that's more of a like a very broad world that you've created for
Yeah,
them.
it's pretty big. Yeah.
Isn't it a wonderful time to be alive that huge franchises are what people want, but not just huge franchises, but not just like linear, a bunch of movies in a row, but just whole worlds that you can build
Yeah, it's
around
pretty weird.
mythology.
All the stuff I was into as a kid that no one else was into is now like mass entertainment. It's
Yeah,
it's a pretty bizarre thing to live through.
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is
Okay,
good.
just a couple more questions. How far into writing Gideon Falls did you come up with the ending, Ben Day? I have not read this one, so was there some kind of ending that is very surprising?
Maybe I don't know. I didn't really know the ending until I got to it, if that makes sense. Yeah, I usually do know my endings on almost everything. Like Sweet Tooth, I knew the ending before I started it, but and I kind of worked towards that ending. Gideon was a little more experimental. The artist was really adding a lot to it as well, so it wasn't fully just me, and we were just kind of feeling it out and going with the flow a lot more on that one. So there were some happy accidents that kind of led us to that ending.
Is that a scary way to write or a fun way to write for you?
It's fun. Yeah, sometimes I more and more I'm plotting things out less because it's like you've already written it once before you even start writing it. Sometimes you've got it so worked out that all the joy is out of it. You're just executing at that point, and I
Yeah.
like kind of leaving things open for surprises and new ideas and stuff you didn't really expect to happen because sometimes that's the best stuff.
Is that a privilege that you've earned from doing it the other way for a long time? So you feel like
Yes.
you have that. So you wouldn't advise a beginning writer to do that, to
Well,
pantser.
it depends where you're working to. I mean, I spent a good decade working at Marvel and DC where you had to, it's so structured and there's so many people involved and the editors and everyone. And you couldn't work that way. And
Yeah.
then when I got out of that system and had that freedom, I just really embraced it.
Yeah, I mean, adapted a lot. I mean, I did a lot of Hollywood writing and pitching, and yeah, you're right. You kind of have to show them every single thing, and it takes the fun out of all of it. And
Yeah.
they don't really approve the fun stuff anyway. But at the same time, I mean, there's something fun to being on rails a little bit. But then my favorite video games, and you don't even know this analogy, but it's Skyrim. And it's like an open world, and you're like, okay, which direction am I going? Let's just go and see what they have for me. And that's for me like the most fun. But yeah, that's good advice because you don't want to just have people just writing thousands of pages and not really understanding where they're going. That's also not a very good, probably
Yeah.
point to make. um, Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I can't wait. Even though, quite frankly, I'm not a horror fan, this sounds wonderful that you're building this elaborate world, and you spent so long building it up. I can't wait to dive in and check it out and maybe be scared.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not a horror fan either, so I think these are kind of horror books for people who maybe don't traditionally love horror stuff. It's kind of a different take on some of the stuff, I think.
Oh, that sounds great. Um, but I would like to ask you one last question. What would you recommend right now to readers that is not your work? Is there anything that you've read lately that you're just like, oh, this is really great?
Yeah,
Even if it's, yeah.
yeah, the two comics I'm really loving are The Department of Truth. I don't know if you know that one. It's an Image comic. It's wonderful. It's sort of a weird take on all the different conspiracy theories in this covert government agency that tracks them. And the other one is called Something is Killing the Children, which is by the same author actually, and it's a weird sci-fi horror book that's got a cool mythology. It's those are both really fun.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to check both of them out. And I'm going to get Passageway when it comes out June 15th for Image Comics, right?
That's right. And before we go, I just wanted to say I don't play video games, but we're big board game players in my family. And
Oh,
my
yeah.
13-year-old son wanted me to tell you that he has your Smash Up expansion card, and he wanted to say hi to you.
Oh, that's really awesome to hear. That is a big OP card, I will say. It got released during a tabletop day celebration when I was back at my company, and boy, that people got real angry, but also excited to get my cards because they were always very OP. Oh, that's very great. Well, yeah, board games are wonderful, and that's the one thing that COVID has taken away from me that I really want to put back in my life because my kid's only 5, so I can't really. We could play we play a couple games. We play Munchkin. She's learning how to play Munchkin.
Well,
I'm like, yeah, we train. What other games do you guys like playing together?
he's huge into Smash Up, so we do a lot of that. We're into Unmatched.
Uh
We're
huh.
into Carnival of Monsters. I don't know if you know that
Ooh, I don't
one.
know that one.
That's really good. And then we
Okay.
also play a ton of D&D. So we
Oh,
do.
do you DM?
I was trying to, but it's like too close to what I do as my job, and it was burning me out. So
Yeah.
my brother-in-law does now, and I just play. My wife and my son and I play with my brother-in-law and his family.
Oh
Every,
man, what kind of class do you play?
I am a cleric dwarf.
Gotcha. No,
Yeah,
that's really
I
cool. That's
didn't
what.
choose, but
Huh?
I was just handed that character and went with it. I don't know what I would be if I chose my own
It's
character.
okay. Listen, you are already burnt on both ends. You don't need to make any more decisions right now. You just need to have fun.
Thank you. I'm glad you understand that.
Oh, believe me, I understand burnout like nobody's business. All right, well, Jeff, thank you so much for talking with us, y'all. We'll be back next month with another interview, and thank you. Check out his book next month. All right, bye.